Yeah, Talafalava, Luingo Tim Tufuga, and it's the 23rd of July 2012. Now, I'm here to talk about the recent political re-election of the head of state of Samoa. I would like to talk firstly about the comparison between the Australian Republican proposal and the present situation with the constitutional arrangements of Samoa, with its diachical arrangements whereby there is an election of the Tamafaiga titles for the status of head of state within the constitutional arrangements, which was initially drafted and assented and ratified within the 1954 Constitutional Convention of Samoa in 1954 and became part of the Samoan Constitution in 1962 when it came into government as an independent nation. Now, what I would like to talk about today is the comparison with the Australian proposal for a republic, whereby there will be an elected official from, not like the Samoan Tamafaiga or Papa title holders, but rather from the hoi polloi or the commoners, now, or people not of gentrified status. Now, the Samoan situation, although it does appear to be a democratically republican structure or codification, it isn't in many respects. In fact, it's based purely on an ancient regime arrangement of the contentions between the Papa title holders and the status of becoming the Tafaifa, or the holders of the four Papa titles. Now, in this context, the head of state of Samoa is not the King of Samoa. That has to be definedly differentiated from the status of Leao or Malo. Now, in Samoa, there is no king. The status of the head of state is known as His Royal Highness, because they're all considered as princes, or in a westernized Eurocentric point of view. Now, in terms of Samoan politics and the traditional polity, the Samoan arrangement with a hitherto diachical arrangement makes it not a monarchy or a monarchical arrangement, but rather a joint head of state, whereby the Sa Malietoa and the Sa Tupu Tamasese are joint holders of the highest status in Samoa. Whether they can rule the nation is another point. In fact, a lot of it is nominal, and it's only a figurehead status. The real ruler of the nation, of course, is the Prime Minister. But that being said, what generally happens is that the ratification of all legislation is done so by the head of state. Now, the difference with Australia, for all intents and purposes, is that Australia does not have a gentrification class structure and does not have aristocrats. There are captains of industry. There are the Gino Reinhardts and the Palmers of this world. Wealthy people, but there are media tycoons who form a kind of media mogul aristocracy of sorts, a bit like the Kennedys in America. But Australia does not have an aristocratic status like England or the three estates that exist in England and in Europe. Now, there are no three estates in Australia, as we all know. So instead, you would have the fourth estate as representing a form of media mogul status, but there aren't any per se. Now, in Samoa, they do have a traditional polity, unlike the Tongan system, which is a translation of a Eurocentric British royalty structure, which was mission made as opposed to a traditional Tongan ancient regime. Samoans, on the other hand, are much more traditional in the sense that their Baba titles and their Tamafaiga titles are in fact consistent with the ancient structure of the contention for the Tafaifa titles. The last Tafaifa of Samoa was Tama Fanger, whom was killed by some people who didn't like him for his avarice and tyrannical antics, and therefore our ancestors, the Malo sought vengeance, and consequently the arrival of John Williams in 1830 saw the cremation of an entire village of the people of Ana. Now, in those terms, it was quite brutal, but the war that was the vengeance of the last Tafaifa, or the last true King of Samoa, was in 1830, and Samoa has never had a king per se, or the Tafaifa, ever since. Now, you need to understand that Samoa does not have a king. It does not have a European definition of a king. It has His Royal Highness as the highest ranking head of state in Samoa. It does have what they did have was the Tafaifa. That's the last king of Samoa. The Tafaifa is the king. There is none. There never will be, not unless the holders of the four titles, the Papa titles, or the Tamafaiga, all unify into one title, which is the Tafaifa. Now, in that context, the Constitution of Samoa does not provide a proviso for the unification of Malietoa or Tupu Tamisese in that context of having a Tafaifa. So Samoa does not have a king. So, so I'm proud of the Samoan culture, and in that context, insofar as translating that into Australian culture, I would have to state that it is completely incomparable, and for all intents and purposes, it's fruitless to try to bring Samoan cultural values in that context to Australian cultural values. Australia is founded by common people, and therefore it must espouse a egalitarian ethos amongst all the battlers and all Australians, because we do not have an aristocracy. Princess Trigonini of the Aboriginal culture, we do not have an aristocratic indigenous person insofar as we know of, and for that reason Australia cannot have an aristocratic monarchical arrangement as would say in Great Britain. Now in Samoa, well, we have our own Tamafaiga and Papa title holders. So yeah, I am proud of Samoa. I am a Samoan, and I would like to say thank you. And oh, by the way, I've got a bit of a shiner because some redneck took a swing at me, but that's just the way life is. So that was at the Kensington Tavern on Friday night. But yeah, mate, you have to live with it. Thanks.